the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in the binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No mic, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune and turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. In shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go.
Donald Davidson, a prominent American philosopher born in 1917 and passed away in 2003, left a significant mark on the field of philosophy. He dedicated his career to teaching at prestigious universities like Berkeley, Stanford, and Princeton, where he shared his profound and often complex ideas with students. Known for his captivating personality, Davidson's philosophical contributions were both deep and challenging, influencing various areas of philosophy, including the philosophy of mind, language, and action. While firmly rooted in the analytic tradition of philosophy, his work also resonated with continental philosophers, particularly those in literary theory, demonstrating the broad appeal and impact of his thinking. Donald Davidson's journey to becoming a renowned philosopher began in Springfield, Massachusetts, in 1917. His early life involved a bit of moving around, which meant he didn't start formal schooling until he was around 9 or 10 years old. Despite this, he was an avid reader and thinker from a young age, exploring philosophical ideas on his own. Davidson's interest in philosophy truly took root during his undergraduate years at Harvard University. Initially, he focused on English, comparative literature, and classics. However, 2 philosophy classes taught by the influential Alfred North Whitehead sparked a profound shift in his academic path. These classes left a lasting impression on him, leading him to pursue graduate studies in philosophy at Harvard. Under the guidance of Willard Van Orman Quine, another significant figure in philosophy, Davidson delved deeper into the subject. Quine's teachings steered Davidson's philosophical thinking in a direction quite different from Whitehead's influence. Davidson's doctoral dissertation focused on Plato's Philebus, showcasing his early engagement with classical philosophy in 1949. This period laid the foundation for Davidson's future contributions to philosophy. He navigated an intellectual landscape dominated by logical positivism, a philosophical movement that emphasized science and sensory experience. However, Davidson, along with his mentor Quine, challenged some of the core tenets of this movement. This is a reference to a book titled Decision Making, an Experimental Approach. It was written collaboratively by 3 authors, Patrick Supps, Sidney Siegel, and the person whose work is being referenced likely the same person mentioned in the previous query about truth and meaning, Donald Davidson, although this would need confirmation. The book was published by Stanford University Press in 1957 and explores the topic of decision-making through an experimental lens. Following his early explorations of language and meaning, Davidson turned his attention to the philosophy of action. This involved investigating the nature of human actions, how we understand them, and how they relate to our reasons and intentions. His seminal essay Actions, Reasons, and Causes 1963 is often considered a cornerstone of his work in this area. In it, he argued that reasons can be causes of actions, a view that challenged prevailing philosophical understandings. This idea, along with his work on the logical form of action sentences and the concept of anomalous monism, which we'll touch on in a moment, significantly shaped the field of action theory. This refers to a significant philosophical paper titled Truth and Meaning, written by Donald Davidson. It was published in the journal Synthese in 1967. This paper is considered a cornerstone in the philosophy of language, exploring the intricate relationship between truth and meaning. It's so important that it was later included in a collection of Davidson's works called Inquiries into Truth and Interpretation, published in 2001. Building on his work on truth theory, Davidson developed his influential theory of anomalous monism in his 1970 paper Mental Events. Anomalous monism tackles the complex relationship between the mind and the body. It argues that while all mental events are ultimately physical events, hence the monism, there are no strict laws connecting mental events as such to physical events, hence the anomalous. This idea has profound implications for how we understand mental causation, free will, and the nature of the mind itself. It suggests that while our thoughts and feelings are grounded in physical processes, they cannot be reduced to or explained by purely physical laws. Reference to a book titled Semantics of Natural Languages. It's the second edition of the book and was edited by two prominent figures in the field of philosophy and linguistics, Donald Davidson and Gilbert Harman. The book was published in New York by Springer in 1973. It likely explores the meaning of words and sentences in everyday language, delving into the complex relationship between language and how we understand the world around us. Donald Davidson's theory of radical interpretation is a complex but fascinating idea that tries to explain how we understand language from scratch, without relying on any prior knowledge of the language being spoken. Point 1. Imagine you encounter a group of people speaking a language you've never heard before. How could you possibly figure out what they're saying? Davidson's answer is that we do it by observing their behavior and making reasonable assumptions about their beliefs and desires. Point 2. We start by noticing what they say in different situations and try to find patterns. Point 3. For example, if they say a certain word when it's raining, we might guess that the word has something to do with rain. But it's not just about matching words to objects or events. We also need to understand how words combine to form sentences and how those sentences express thoughts. To do this, Davidson suggests that we need to develop a theory of truth for the language. Point 4. This theory would specify the conditions under which each sentence in the language is true. Now, this might sound complicated, but Davidson argues that it's something we do unconsciously whenever we understand language. When we hear someone say something, we automatically figure out what they're saying by determining the conditions under which their statement would be true. Of course, there are many ways to interpret someone's words, and there might be several different theories of truth that could explain their behavior. So, how do we choose the right one? Davidson's answer is that we should choose the theory that makes the most sense of their overall behavior and that attributes to them the most consistent set of beliefs and desires. This is what he calls the principle of charity. This is a bibliographic entry referencing a chapter written by Donald Davidson. The chapter is titled On the Very Idea of a Conceptual Scheme. It appears as Chapter 13 in his book Inquiries into Truth and Interpretation. While the book was published in 1984 by Clarendon Press in Oxford, the chapter itself was originally written in 1974, as indicated by the bracketed year. This means the version included in the 1984 book is likely a reprint or perhaps a slightly revised version of the 1974 piece. Suppose lightning strikes a dead tree in a swamp. I am standing nearby. My body is reduced to its elements, while entirely by coincidence and out of different molecules the tree is turned into my physical replica. My replica, the swamp man, moves exactly as I did. According to its nature it departs the swamp, encounters and seems to recognize my friends, and appears to return their greetings in English. It moves into my house and seems to write articles on radical interpretation. No one can tell the difference. But there is a difference. My replica can't recognize my friends, it can't recognize anything, since it never cognized anything in the first place. It can't know my friends' names, though of course it seems to. It can't remember my house. It can't mean what I do by the word house, for example, since the sound house it makes was not learned in a context that would give it the right meaning or any meaning at all. Indeed, I don't see how my replica can be said to mean anything by the sounds it makes, nor to have any thoughts. Donald Davidson, Knowing One's Own Mind. This passage explains a famous thought experiment called Swamp Man created by the philosopher Donald Davidson. Davidson introduced the Swamp Man thought experiment in his 1987 paper, Knowing One's Own Mind. Imagine Davidson is walking in a swamp when lightning strikes and instantly destroys his body. At the exact same moment, by sheer coincidence, another lightning strike causes a nearby tree to rearrange its molecules into a perfect physical copy of Davidson. This copy, Swamp Man, walks out of the swamp and behaves exactly as Davidson would have, indistinguishable from him in every way. Davidson uses this thought experiment, presented in Knowing One's Own Mind 1987, to argue that our thoughts and the meaning we attach to words aren't just about our physical makeup. He claims that Swamp Man, despite being a perfect physical replica, doesn't actually have thoughts or understand language. Why? Because Swamp Man lacks the crucial connection to the world that Davidson has. Davidson has a history of experiences, interactions, and causal relationships with his environment that shape his thoughts and give meaning to his words. Swamp Man, on the other hand, is a brand new creation, without that history. Donald Davidson, a major figure in 20th century philosophy, significantly impacted our understanding of empiricism by challenging what he called its third dogma. Traditional empiricism, which emphasizes experience as the source of knowledge, generally focuses on two core ideas: that we aren't born with pre-existing knowledge, no innate ideas, and that there's a clear distinction between truths based on definition and truths based on experience. Davidson, however, argued against a less obvious, third assumption within empiricism, the separation of scheme and content. This third dogma suggests that our minds use pre-existing frameworks, or conceptual schemes, to organize the information we get from our senses, the content. Davidson disagreed with this separation. He thought it created problems because it implied that our experiences are filtered through a subjective lens, potentially leading to relativism where people with different frameworks perceive the world in radically different and ultimately untranslatable ways. Instead, Davidson proposed that language and thought are fundamentally connected to the world itself. He argued that to even understand language, we must share a common understanding of the world with the person speaking. This shared understanding, he believed, makes the idea of radically different, untranslatable conceptual schemes impossible. Davidson's critique of this third dogma had a profound effect on the philosophy of language and mind, offering a new perspective on how language, thought, and the world are related and challenging traditional empiricist views. Donald Davidson continued to be an active and influential philosopher throughout his later years. He further developed and refined his views on language, mind, action, and knowledge, publishing numerous articles and books. He remained engaged in philosophical debates and discussions, contributing to the ongoing development of analytic philosophy. His work continued to attract attention from scholars across different philosophical traditions. Sadly, Donald Davidson passed away on August 31, 2003, in Berkeley, California, at the age of 86. His death marked the end of a remarkable career that spanned decades and significantly shaped the landscape of contemporary philosophy. His contributions to the field are still widely discussed and debated, and his work continues to inspire and challenge philosophers today. Reference and citation, Ev. 9, S. 1991. Donald Davidson. Stanford University Press. Lepore, E. and Ludwig, K. 2005. Donald Davidson, Meaning, Truth, Language, and Reality. Oxford University Press. Malpass, J. 1992. Donald Davidson and the Mirror of Meaning, Holism, Truth, Interpretation. Cambridge University Press. Hahn, L.E. ed. 1999. The Philosophy of Donald Davidson. Open Chord Publishing. Prayer, G. Peter, G. N. Siebel, M. eds. 2005. Concepts of Meaning, Framing an Integrated Theory of Linguistic Behavior. Kluwer Academic Publishers. Kemp, G. 2012. What is this thing called Philosophy of Language? Routledge. Kluwer, K. 2006. Donald Davidson, A Short Introduction. Oxford University Press. Verhagen, C. 2007. Triangulation, From an Epistemological Point of View. In Reading Davidson, Essays on the Work of Donald Davidson, pages 19 to 40. Routledge. Ramberg, B. 1989. Donald Davidson's Philosophy of Language, An Introduction. Blackwell.
Mics on the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark, unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No light, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Hidden in shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just the beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go. Pure and raw. Pure and raw. And feel. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. present day.